The ocean has always been a stage for giants. Steel hulls, thousands of men, and the clash of nations written across waves that cared nothing for their ambitions. Yet in this alternate history, one giant rises that never truly had its chance. Germany's Graf Zeppelin, the carrier that history abandoned incomplete, now finished, armed, and unleashed. And waiting across the vast Pacific is America's most famous ship, the USS Enterprise, the Gray Ghost, the carrier that seemed to refuse death. In this timeline, their paths converge. It begins not with explosions, but with decisions years earlier. In our history, the Graf Zeppelin never sailed. She was left unfinished, abandoned by shifting priorities and internal doubt. But here, Berlin does not hesitate. Steel keeps flowing, workers keep hammering, and by 1940, the ship is alive. Sleek, bristling with guns, and ready to carry the Luftwaffe across the sea. Hitler boasts she will be Germany's answer to Britain's Ark Royal and America's Enterprise. For the first time, the Reich has a true carrier. The trigger for their meeting lies in 1942. Japan, pressing harder in this alternate world, welcomes its German ally, not just in words but in waters. Graf Zeppelin leaves Kiel and sails east, slipping through the Suez after Axis victories in North Africa. She emerges into the Indian Ocean, escorted by destroyers and cruisers, her decks lined with fighters and dive bombers that gleam in tropical sunlight. Her mission is bold: hunt Allied shipping, disrupt supply lines, and prove to the world that Germany is not confined to Europe. But across the sea sails another legend, the Enterprise. By now, she has already fought at Midway and Guadalcanal. She has been bombed, torpedoed, and nearly destroyed, yet each time she returns to the fight. Sailors whisper she is untouchable, a ship with a soul. When reports arrive that the Germans have brought a carrier into the Indian Ocean, Enterprise is dispatched to hunt her. It will be a duel no one in our world ever saw. The ocean itself becomes a chessboard. Carriers live and die not by armor but by eyesight. To find first is to strike first. To strike first is to live. At dawn, the Indian Ocean is glass. Each ship launches its scouts. Fragile silhouettes of aircraft trace arcs wider and wider, men squinting through the haze for shapes of masts and wakes. On every deck, sailors wait, breath caught in their chests. Aboard the Enterprise, Admiral Raymond Spruance leans over his plotting table. He has faced the Japanese and knows hesitation kills. For him, this is another battle, but with a twist. An American carrier has never faced a German one. Across the sea, Admiral Rolf Karls commands the Zeppelin. He knows the world is watching. If his ship triumphs, it will rewrite the image of German power. The first clash comes when American Dauntless dive bombers stumble upon Zeppelin's escort screen. German Messerschmitts, adapted for sea use, roar to intercept. The sky explodes into weaving trails, guns stitching across blue. Some Dauntlesses fall in fire, spiraling into the water, but a few slip past, climbing for the great dive. Zeppelin's anti-aircraft guns roar to life. The deck rattles with tracers, sailors shouting, shells bursting like black flowers in the sky. The first bombs splash wide, towering geysers drenching the ship, but she survives the opening strike. Smoke drifts across her bow, but the carrier sails on, unbroken. For the first time in history, a German carrier has faced an American attack and lived. Night falls heavy. Both ships vanish into darkness. Flight decks go quiet except for the hum of engines below. Men lie awake in their bunks, staring into the steel above, imagining the battle still circling overhead. Some pray, some sharpen knives in silence, others write letters that will never be sent. Everyone knows dawn will bring fire again. And it does. Morning light spills across the ocean, and with it, choices. Zeppelin launches her strike first, modified Stuka dive bombers, their sirens howling, escorted by Messerschmitts glittering in the sun. They rise from her deck like a swarm of iron bees, engines droning. For Germany, this is history made real. A carrier strike group in combat, something that never was in truth. Enterprise answers in kind. Her deck is a frenzy of motion. Hellcats thunder into the sky. Avengers lift heavy with torpedoes. Dauntlesses rise steady and grim. Two flocks of warbirds, German and American, climb into the same sky. They will not all return. The duel of carriers has begun. The morning sun glares off the Indian Ocean, a white blaze that makes the horizon blur. Out of that haze, two forces of aircraft carve their lines toward destiny. On one side, the Americans, Hellcats, Avengers, and Dauntlesses, rugged machines flown by men already hardened by Midway and Guadalcanal. On the other, the Germans, sleek Messerschmitts modified for carrier use and Stuka dive bombers now reborn as naval weapons. Two philosophies of war now take shape in the sky. The first contact is sudden and violent. At 15,000 feet, a flight of Hellcats dives on the incoming Germans. Guns blaze, tracers whip across the air, and a Messerschmitt explodes into flame, rolling into the sea below. But the Germans answer in kind. Their fighters climb with ferocity, quick and precise, hammering into the American formation. One Hellcat is shredded, its pilot bailing out too low, his chute never opening. The battle spreads like wildfire, aircraft spinning and twisting in a sky now alive with smoke and fire. Below, both carriers are deaf to the details of that dogfight, but they know what it means. The escorts form screens, destroyers zigzag, cruisers unleash anti-aircraft fire at shadows, still far off. On Zeppelin's deck, sailors drag ammunition to the mounts, their faces blackened with smoke, their eyes burning from fumes. On Enterprise, the air boss keeps the rhythm steady, launching the last of his strike while the men below decks brace for impact. The first wave strikes nearly simultaneously. A Stuka comes screaming down on the Enterprise, its siren howling like some monstrous bird. Flak bursts all around, black smoke and shrapnel filling the dive. Still it comes. The bomb leaves its belly, slicing through air, and explodes near the flight deck aft. The ship shudders violently. A geyser of water drenches her stern. Men are hurled from their feet, but the deck holds. The gray ghost, scarred but alive, keeps moving. Almost at the same moment, dauntless bombers find the Graf Zeppelin. Diving through a storm of flak, they release at terrifyingly low altitude. One bomb misses, another splashes close, towering water over her bow. But one hits home. It slams into the forward deck, blowing a crater into wood and steel, scattering burning wreckage. Flames lick upward, alarms scream. Yet the Zeppelin endures. Her crew swarms the fire, smothering it with foam, dragging bodies aside as hoses roar. She still floats, still fights. The air fills with chaos. Avengers drop torpedoes low, their wakes streaking white across the calm sea. Zeppelin maneuvers desperately, her escorts throwing themselves into the paths of danger. One German cruiser takes a torpedo meant for the carrier, a shattering explosion ripping its side open, smoke and fire climbing to the sky. On the American side, Hellcats lock horns with Messerschmitts, dueling in tight spirals until both fall, locked in death. Hours pass like minutes. Both carriers bleed strength. Both admirals know the truth. A single well-placed hit can finish everything, and both refuse to back down. Spruance pushes Enterprise closer to weather, hiding her movements in storm squalls, buying precious moments to recover and relaunch. Karls orders Zeppelin into open sky, risking exposure for the chance of a decisive strike. It becomes a contest of nerve as much as of steel. By late afternoon, the battle tilts again. A German torpedo bomber, low and stubborn, slips through the American screen. Its payload slams into Enterprise near her island. The blast rips open her hull, water rushing in, lights flickering. For a moment, it feels like her end. The ship lists, sailors tumble across tilted decks, compartments flood. But her crew fights back with ferocity. Pumps roar, welders spark, watertight doors slam shut. Inch by inch, the flooding slows. Enterprise steadies, battered but unbroken. The response comes swiftly. Dauntless bombers, already circling, dive once more on Zeppelin. Through smoke and gunfire, they fall, screaming downward. This time, the strike is true. A bomb crashes through the deck near her midsection, exploding in a hangar below. Planes waiting for launch erupt in fire. Ammunition cooks off, and smoke billows, black and choking. Zeppelin lurches, her speed faltering. For the first time, the German admiral feels the weight of doubt. Still, neither ship sinks. That is the terrible beauty of carrier warfare. Endurance stretched beyond reason, each side refusing to give the other satisfaction. Decks are scarred, aircraft lost, crews exhausted. Yet both ships remain afloat, still trading blows. As evening shadows stretch across the sea, the battle slows. Pilots land battered machines on ruined decks, some collapsing into wreckage, others skidding into nets as crews scramble to drag them clear. Fires burn low, water sloshes in lower decks, damaged crews fight fatigue as much as flames. The admirals make their choices. Spruance, cautious, pulls Enterprise into storm coves. As evening shadows stretch across the sea, the battle slows. Pilots land battered machines on ruined decks, some collapsing into wreckage, others skidding into nets as crews scramble to drag them clear. Fires burn low, water sloshes in lower decks. Damaged crews fight fatigue as much as flames. The admirals make their choices. Spruance, cautious, pulls Enterprise into storm cover again. Karls, proud, refuses retreat, even as his carrier lists slightly to port. Both gamble that morning will decide what night now hides. The ocean darkens, swallowing smoke and flame. Above, stars glitter, indifferent to the struggle below. Each side holds on, wounded but alive, waiting for dawn. The duel is not finished. Night hangs heavy over the sea. The ocean swallows light, leaving only the dim glow of burning wreckage bobbing in the waves. Both carriers limp in opposite shadows, their escorts circling like anxious wolves. For the men on board, the hours between dusk and dawn stretch like an eternity. On the Enterprise, welders cut and hammer in the dark, sparks dancing off twisted steel as pumps work to keep the ship afloat. On the Graf Zeppelin, sailors shovel smoking debris from her hangar, fighting fires that flare back up without warning, their eyes stinging from fuel fumes. Few sleep. The pilots rest in uneasy silence, lying on decks still trembling from damage. Some whisper about comrades who never returned. Others grip pencils, writing hurried notes to families far away, though they know the sea may keep the letters forever. Deep below, engineers tend the beating hearts of each carrier, the engines straining, the pumps groaning, every man aware that one more hit could silence them for good. And then dawn arrives. Thin light spreads across the Indian Ocean, first gray, then gold. With it comes the choice both admirals dreaded. To strike again means risking everything. To hold back means conceding the sea. Neither man bends. Zeppelin launches first. Her surviving Stukas rise unsteadily from scorched planks, escorted by Messerschmitts patched overnight. Some aircraft leak oil, others carry scars, but they go anyway. For Germany, pride demands nothing less. Karls watches from the island, his face grim, knowing each launch drains men and machines he cannot replace. Enterprise responds almost immediately. Spruance orders every operational plane into the air. Hellcats leap from the deck, Avengers lumber forward heavy with torpedoes, Dauntlesses climb for altitude. The Grey Ghost has been mauled, but she is not finished. For her crew, this strike is survival. The two forces converge once again in the morning sky. Hellcats dive into the Germans, guns blazing, trying to scatter them before they reach the fleet. A Messerschmitt falls in flames, another peels away trailing smoke. But the Stukas hold steady, dropping lower, wings trembling as they enter their dives. The sirens wail, that dreadful howl, as they descend toward Enterprise. Bombs splash wide, 1, 2, 3, towering water over her deck. The fourth hits closer. A shockwave hammers her stern, throwing men to the deck. Fires flare along the starboard side. For a heartbeat, the ship seems frozen, then her engines push again. Her pumps roar. Her crews swarm to fight the blaze. She lives. At nearly the same moment, Zeppelin faces her own torment. Dauntless bombers pierce the clouds, rolling into dives almost vertical. Flak rises in desperate bursts, but one bomb drives home. It punches through the deck near her forward elevator, exploding below in the hangar where aircraft are being readied. Fire erupts instantly, racing through fuel lines and ammunition stores. Smoke bursts upward in a choking column. Men rush to contain it, dragging hoses, spraying foam, carrying the wounded clear. Zeppelin staggers, her speed falling. Now both carriers are bleeding. Enterprise lists slightly to starboard, scorched and trembling. Zeppelin struggles to maintain headway, her once proud deck ripped open. Neither commander will retreat. Both gamble on one last strike. By midday, the decisive moment arrives. An American squadron of Avengers, flying low over the waves, slips beneath the German fighter screen. Anti-aircraft guns bark, tracer fire lashes out, but the torpedo bombers hold steady. One is shot down, then another, crashing into the sea in flames. The survivors press on. Torpedoes drop, skimming wakes toward Zeppelin's hull. Two run wide, one slams home amidships. The explosion rips into her side, tearing open compartments, flooding steel corridors with water. Alarms scream across the ship. She heels sharply, men thrown across decks, pumps engage, damage crews rush. But her speed bleeds away. Her once defiant stride falters. For Karls, the truth is clear. His carrier is still afloat, but she cannot fight much longer. Another strike will break her. He looks at his officers, sees exhaustion in their eyes, the smoke on their skin, the blood on their uniforms. They have given all they can. On Enterprise, Spruance hears the reports with measured calm. His ship is battered, her side torn open, her decks scarred. She too is close to breaking. But she still moves, still launches, still fights. For the Americans, that is enough. The afternoon sky dims toward evening once more. Neither ship has sunk the other. Both are wounded nearly beyond repair. Yet one truth is undeniable. The Graf Zeppelin will not escape unscathed. She has shown Germany's ambition, but at a cost too high. Enterprise remains the ghost of legend, scarred but unbroken. a reminder that survival itself is victory. As the sun dips low, each carrier turns away, limping into opposite horizons. Smoke trails. The duel is over, but its echo will haunt every sailor who lived through it. The final night after battle is unlike the one before. There are no more sorties, no more strike groups clawing through the sky. Only silence, broken by the groan of steel and the cough of wounded engines. Both fleets scatter into the dark, their carriers at the center limping but alive. The Graf Zeppelin smolders in the moonlight, her decks still scorched, her list obvious even from her escorts. The Enterprise glides slowly through black water, smoke trailing from her stern, her side torn open but sealed just enough to keep her afloat. On board, men move like shadows. On the American side, damaged crews keep pumping, welding, sealing leaks. Below decks, sailors wade through ankle-deep water, shoring up bulkheads with timber and steel. The sickbay is overflowing. Stretcher after stretcher lines the passageways, the smell of blood and smoke heavy in the air. A chaplain moves silently between the injured, whispering words of comfort. Some listen, others do not stir at all. Aboard the Zeppelin, the scene is much the same. Her hangar is a blackened cavern of twisted steel and melted aluminum, where once planes stood ready for war. Crews shovel debris through jagged holes in her deck, tossing charred fragments into the sea. The wounded are carried to the infirmary, but there are too many. Some rest quietly on deck, staring up at the stars, their faces pale. No one speaks of victory. Dawn reveals the truth. Enterprise still sails, but she is scarred, her speed reduced, her decks half ruined. Graf Zeppelin struggles to maintain even 10 knots, her power failing, her crew exhausted. Neither ship can continue the fight. And so, without a formal truce, both sides turn away. Enterprise limps back toward the nearest Allied base, her escorts flanking her like guardians. Zeppelin withdraws west, hoping to reach safe harbor before her wounds drag her beneath the sea. The battle has no clear winner. In numbers, in damage, both sides paid dearly. Scores of planes lost, hundreds of men dead or missing. Neither carrier is destroyed, yet neither emerges whole. It is a duel that ends in survival rather than triumph. But sometimes, survival is the only victory the sea allows. News travels quickly. In Berlin, the Graf Zeppelin is hailed as a miracle. The Reich's first true carrier, blooded in battle and still afloat after facing America's most feared warship. But whispers spread as well. She is crippled, her aircraft gutted, her future uncertain. Admirals argue behind closed doors about whether Germany has the strength or the industry to ever make carriers the core of its navy. In Washington, reports from Enterprise inspire awe and worry. Once again, the gray ghost has survived the impossible, scarred but undefeated. Yet her brush with death is too close to ignore. What if that torpedo had struck closer to her engines? What if the fires had reached her fuel stores? America learns that even its greatest ship is not untouchable. The legend grows, but so does the sobering awareness of risk. For the sailors who lived it, the meaning is simpler. They remember the roar of engines overhead, the shriek of bombs in the dive, the hammer of explosions rattling steel beneath their boots. They remember comrades who never came back, faces forever missing at roll call. They know that history will argue over strategy and outcomes, but for them, the battle is measured in names lost to the sea. And yet, even in this alternate world, something profound is revealed. Carrier warfare is not about glory or gun duels at close range. It is about endurance, about the fragile balance between sight and strike, about the thin margin that separates survival from destruction. Graf Zeppelin showed that Germany could build a carrier, but at terrible cost. Enterprise proved that even legends can be hurt, though not easily killed. Both ships become symbols of resilience rather than conquest. The Indian Ocean swallows their wakes. Waves close over the wreckage, carrying away the fragments of wings and fuselages, the oil slicks and the splintered rafts. To the sea, it is nothing new. Battles have always come and gone across its surface. To the men who were there, it is everything. And so the story of Graf Zeppelin versus USS Enterprise ends not with a decisive victory, but with a haunting reminder. Sometimes history turns not on who wins, but on who refuses to fall. In this duel, both carriers lived. And because they lived, they taught the world a truth that echoes through every ocean war to come. That giants can fight to exhaustion and still find no conqueror among them. The question lingers like mist at dawn. What if Germany had built not just one carrier, but many? What if Zeppelin had been joined by sisters striking alongside Japan's Kido Butai? Would the Allies have bent under the weight of two great navies joined in power? Or would America, already awakening as the arsenal of democracy, have answered with even greater fleets, even more Enterprise-class ships, until the oceans were theirs alone? We cannot know. What we can imagine is enough. Two ships, two nations, colliding in a duel that history never gave us. And in that imagining, we glimpse the knife's edge on which the Second World War was fought. This is the story of Graf Zeppelin and the USS Enterprise, a story of pride, survival, and the thin line between triumph and disaster. A story that reminds us why history matters, not just for what happened, but for what might have been if fate had turned another way. If you have traveled with us this far, through smoke and fire and the haunting calm of the sea, stay with us. There are more battles to explore, more questions to ask, more alternate paths to walk, because history is not just the past, it is a map of the infinite roads we never took.